Bobby Wagner, in his 12th NFL season, is balling out for the 2023 Seahawks defense. I'm talking against the run, as a blitzer, and in pass coverage. Bobby Wagner is well and truly back in Seattle. And while the 9-time All-Pro, 6 first-team All-Pro player may not have the movement skills that he did at his peak, he's balling out against run, pass, all downs and distances. And while at Seattle Overload, we were kind of concerned about that 1-year, $5.5 million deal with $1.5 million in incentives. Wagner, he's not proving us wrong, but I think the way he's playing with his current skill set is making him more valuable than we imagined. He had 17 total tackles, 9 of them solo against the Giants last Monday. He also had 2 sacks. And as we look at this tape, and we're going to dive into it, this guy is balling out. He is balling out, and I'm so happy that Seattle's got this in their defense right in the middle of it. So let's start off with the obvious stuff, what Wagner brings against the run game. And this 3rd and 3 is super simple stuff, but made to look even easier than it is. Wagner is just assigned the B gap on the play here. He's responsible for fitting in between the nose tackle and the guy on the edge. And a big reason Seattle has this number 1 ranked run defense is how well those inside backers behind the front are playing. Now, it all fits together, of course, and you should check out my video on how Seattle fixed their run defense. Now, why I say this is simple is it's just one running back for one gap, and Bobby's just got to fit in the B gap, but offenses like to run towards that open B gap bubble, and Wagner with the 3 technical ways responsible for filling it. And you can see how he is able to dip around this guard. Now, there's some eye candy here, like is it 2 back, which would change the picture a bit for these linebackers. It isn't. Wagner isn't hesitating. He's able to make the tackle in the hole, brings up 4th and 1. Giants probably felt good about their ability to pick up the first down here, given, the guard should be able to chip and climb to Wagner, but he's able to bend around and make the tackle. Great stuff. Now, obviously, the Giants are a bit more complicated than just simple inside zone like we just saw there. Daniel Jones has the ability to run the football, and Wagner's ability to find him on stuff was super, super impressive. So, how do they run the football? Well, this play here is what we call quarterback bash. So, they're faking the stretch run here, and then the quarterback has the option to pull the football, which Daniel Jones does, and follow his pulling guard and tackle around. So, as you can see, as we just wind it back, here's the jet motion, some more eye candy for the backers. Here comes the pullers, and then here comes Daniel Jones keeping the football. Now, who makes the tackle? Bobby Wagner. So how does that work? Well, Seattle's rolling down a safety here. Brooks is also going outside here. It's almost like a 2-back run fit for them with this jet motion from this side. So Wagner really has to be keenly aware that though he has a nickel outside here, ultimately Seattle's stunting here. And while his job is to shuffle along with his ball fake, as soon as he sees these pullers, he needs to rock back because there's a safety coming out here. There's also this outside backer setting the edge up here. Wagner's responsibility on the play is to basically fit where the ball's actually going. And Boye Mafe does a brilliant job as the edge, spilling the counter path. See how he wrong arms the first puller and is able to take 2 for the price of 1. And Wagner just makes him right and also doesn't get his ankles broken by Daniel Jones. Gets outside on the play, knowing ultimately if he's not doing that, there's less help in this alley. He needs to work outside and then makes the tackle. So it's excellent leveraging of the football, falling back with the pullers, seeing the pullers, not overcommitting to the eye candy outside, fitting off your outside backer, and making the tackle. Really impressive stuff. And this kind of option football is always going to test the discipline of certain players. And what shone through in this game was how Seattle stayed disciplined. Now, this 1st and 5 at the goal line is another great example of Wagner playing with his edge to fit the run. So typically, you would expect against kind of zone read or read option plays where the end is left unblocked by design and the quarterback's going to read that defensive end and pull the ball if the defensive end crashes inside and hand the ball off if the defensive end nestles on the outside. Typically, the outside linebacker or the defensive end, the edge player, is going for Seattle is going to set the edge. But you can see here Nwosu talking with Wagner over how they want to play this. They're on the B-gap bubble side. They have the running back towards them. They know that there is likely to be some kind of read to their side if it is a run play. So Wagner shuffles along on as this, just in case it was creating a different kind of set. And then you'll notice he exchanges responsibilities with Nwosu. So Nwosu scrapes hard down the line of scrimmage. Daniel Jones pulls the ball. Wagner, on time with his teammate, works past the tackle, gets depth to set the edge of the defense, forces Jones to cut up inside, where Nwosu, playing with very good intelligence, he's aware that really Jones is likely to pull the football with him scraping down for the running back and not playing the quarterback, is then able to redirect back to the quarterback, make the tackle with Wagner, and Brooks also did a great job falling back over the top. And this is especially pretty from the end zone. Again, I don't think we see the communication between the two here, but notice Nwosu's path is very aggressive, tight. Jones pulls the ball thinking, we've left him unblocked by design so we can climb our tackle up to Bobby Wagner, but Bobby Wagner is able to come down outside. Pretty impressive bend to then get around, make the tackle. And then also let's have a look at Jordan Brooks here. Brooks with the 3-tech here, stacks his gap, stacks his lineman, and then falls back to the quarterback. Very impressive fit from all three players. So Seattle got a 1-yard stop there. Here on this 3rd and 11, and the clock's slightly wrong here. I don't think the Giants are supposed to hand this ball off. I think this is the play Brian Daboll was referring to in his post-game press conference when he said, we got the play call wrong, the communication was wrong. Like 3rd and 11, we're running the ball. I'm not sure about that. But what I want you to focus on is Seattle's all thinking pass here. Like, that's why Bobby Wagner's playing so far off. Brooks is, I think, trying to threaten as though he's pressuring. Could be something else going on. I believe the coverage call, though, is quarter halves, which would put Wagner as the 3-receiver player. And in this down and distance, you want him to be getting more depth than, say, the weak quarter flat player who can play more aggressive, almost like man on this, especially on like this tight end. Now, Wagner sees guard pull, comes around, makes the tackle. Okay, very unusual blocking scheme from the Giants here, where the guard doesn't go to the first level. Taylor does a good job playing thick to this. They double Taylor, and both Brooks and Wagner are unblocked into there. And yeah, Jaron Reed does something crazy here, getting over the top with the guard pull and joining some of the contact along with Taylor. Great run fit. Now, why I've included that play, because it's a kind of a weird play from the Giants. Look at this 1st and 10 with the ball on the 25, and all of Wagner's experience really does start to come up in games. We saw it with the communication with his outside backers, and here they tried the same type of play call, and I had to check, and I really don't think this is a called blitz. I had to check that this wasn't a called blitz because he triggers so fast into this play. We'll talk about the coverage in a second, but he is vicing this puller, seeing the puller come around, getting right into the gap, making the play, making the tackle for loss along with Miles Adams. Look at the end zone. Could be this guard is an indicator. I'm sure, this is the type of things that NFL players look for, the best NFL players especially. Could be that guard is an indicator of a pull. The sets here, that looks more tight for like a down block and a pull around compared to here. That's a wider split between the center and the guard. This guy's also tilted at more of an angle to go and get for the 3-tech, whereas this guy's kind of flatter, more even stance in his feet. But Seattle on paper here, they should be in trouble because there's the down blocks here. This tackle should be able to get Bobby Wagner. This center should be able to get the nose tackle. This tight end should be able to get Brooks, and the guard should be able to get Darrell Taylor. But Wagner's able to key this so quickly that this poor tackle, whose job it is to seal Wagner on the play, has absolutely no hope. All that means is the ball hits inside, is not meant to hit up here, and Miles Adams, brilliant job, crossing face with the guard pull, swimming over the top. But Wagner is just too quick for the play design. This tackle is meant to get him. He's meant to seal him inside. This run is meant to hit up this gap here. But we'll look where Wagner ends up, right in that gap, and makes the play for the defense. Why is it difficult on them? Well, in terms of what they're playing coverage-wise, 2 high safeties, they're one short in the box. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 gaps, and Seattle only has 6 defenders that they're playing with. Now, you could say this nickel is slightly involved, but realistically, power to that side, he's not, is he? He's not going to make a play. He actually ends up playing the bubble. They choose to play 3 over 2, and even if Derek Hall's playing heavy, depending on what type of block he gets, which could be the case, in terms of the power play, this should have hit for the Giants. On a whiteboard, they're going, yeah, we got the call in. Unfortunately for them, Bobby Wagner was just... Last thing I want to point out, this type of recollection is crazy to me. Like 1:14 in the second quarter on a 3rd and 11 was that weird kind of give-up play. And then this play is 1:03 in the third quarter with Seattle up 21-3. Like, it'd be very easy to lose focus. All right, finally this year, schematically, Seattle has so much more answers and layers for their run game defense. And so on the 2nd and 5 here, you can see how Wagner contributes as a blitzer. Now, the B-gap bubble, teams like to run on it. And one way to mix that up is just blitz the B-gap bubble. Now, what I love here is it's the same Giants type of play. It's power, pulling the guard from the shotgun. And rather than Wagner keying the guard and then coming around and filling the gap, with Seattle, again, light in the box, playing with 6 versus 7 gaps, plus the threat of the quarterback run game, Wagner instead is blitzed through the B-gap where the guard is leaving, beats the center down block through there, and follows the guard around and joins the tackle where he enjoys also the brilliant work done front side from his teammates. So here's the stunt. Here comes the center for Wagner. Dip around, rip through, find the running back. Great edge work up front here. Nwosu recognizing that he's unblocked, condensing, squeezing, waiting for the guard to come. The guard has to make a decision. Nwosu ends up unblocked because, once more, this time Jarran Reed on the stunt. I think he's stunting to set up Wagner's path, but he's also, like how Wagner recognized the guard was pulling, I think Jarran Reed knows this guy's pulling. The way he crosses the face of that, or he knows the center's coming to get him on the down block. It's not physically possible in the NFL to do this so quickly, even on a movement. He knows pre-snap what's going on. And this is so impressive for him to go all the way, and meet the puller and make Wagner's job easy and Nwosu's job very easy on this play. Brilliant run defense from everyone. So this is Wagner causing issues as a blitzer versus the run game. But as I said, he had 2 sacks against the Giants, and that happened because he was blitzing versus the pass. So this 3rd and 7 is a great first example. Seattle's in an overload line. All that means is there are 2 defensive tackles on the same side of the formation. You can see how they have 3 pass rushers, traditional pass rushers on this side, and then just the 1 here. They've also created a mugged front with Bobby Wagner in the open gap. When you've got the 2 defensive tackles over here, there's an open gap and Wagner's mugged it. What that does is it dictates the protection from the offense, and it also means from that you can run pass rush games, which is what Seattle does here. So here's Daniel Jones changing the protection. Often you get man-to-man stuff, and that's what you get. So this tackle's man on the edge. This guard's man on Mario Edwards. This center's man on the nose tackle. This guard is man on Wagner. This left tackle is man on Nwosu, who they're going to chip the tight end. And this back has Jordan Brooks if he was to come too. As we roll the play through, Seattle runs a pass protection game to exploit that man coverage. Watching Bobby Wagner here, look how he gets free and gets his sack on Daniel Jones. So how did it happen? Nwosu is picking the guard and the tackle. So 1 upfield step and then a hard step inside, picking, and Wagner's loop is tight enough around the back to meet Daniel Jones. Perfect execution from Nwosu. Lovely. And Wagner is clean off the edge for his sack. The way he's able to corner here is tighter than a defensive tackle would be. It's also quicker and more agile. Now, what also happens is Jarran Reed ends up ending up doing a pick for Nwosu, which is very cool. And Boye Mafe takes advantage of the one-on-one he has up the top of the screen here, just runs around the tackle. Check out Griff's video on Boye Mafe if you haven't already. Here's the end zone angle. The other thing with this being a linebacker, I spoke about how, it's obviously more agile than one of these big 300-pounders or even 270-pounders, is There is a world where Wagner could be man on the running back. Like, it's not unfeasible. And there's also a world where he can drop out and play in a zone of a defense. So the defense doesn't know whether he's rushing 100%. And now Seattle's kind of established that he will rush. They can then play layers off of that. So a very cool sack from B-Wags. You can see here how confused the pick gets these two offensive linemen bashing into each other. Wagner survives the kind of late hook recovery move and bang, gets his first sack. And he is understandably delighted with that. Next up, 1st and 10, ball on the 41. Seattle in this game showed a bit of their nickel bear front. So both guards covered up and the center, nickel personnel, 5 DBs on the field. Technically, it's a 3-3-5, isn't it? If you consider the 2 edges outside linebackers like Seattle does. And when you show this type of look, again, you are likely to get man protection. You're likely to get the center on the nose tackle, the guard on the 3-tech, the guard on the 3-tech, and then the tackle out on the edge and the tackle out on the edge, with the running back having the linebacker here, or the running back releases and the quarterback needs to throw hot. Let's see what protection the Giants end up running. Indeed, the running back is responsible for Bobby Wagner. Now, as we play this through, you can see the pressure works really well, and then we'll talk about what Seattle did to make it work. So this is just a classic deal of, we know you're in man protection, like how we picked for Wagner on the first sack. Here, we're going to slant the 3-tech in. The guard who's man on him will step down. Wagner, blitzing through the B gap this time, knows he waits for this to clear, and then it's going to open up in the B. If this guy steps down, then the edge is free. So he knows this B gap's coming free. Here we go. He's pretty tight. He's going pretty early. The 3 technique goes through Miles Adams. And then Wagner gets matched up on the back, but he's already in the backfield, and it's a tough block. Now, what I really like about Wagner here as well, veteran savvy once more showing up. He knows he's likely coming at this speed to be cut blocked, and he defeats the cut block. He stays on his feet, like he gets back up on his feet. Less experienced players would just get cut blocked to oblivion and have their knees destroyed and fall over, and then it creates an escape lane. Wagner's ability to notice the cut block, defeat it to an extent, but he gets back up very quickly. He never really falls over, and then hustle back after Jones. It means the escape lane isn't as clear. And then Cam Young, really good work, playing strong, getting off the block, one-hand tackle on Jones. That's really impressive stuff. Okay, so coverage-wise here, is Seattle sending the house? No, they're not. You can see that the coverage did a really good job against the Giants' pattern. It's just a fighter zone. So Wagner's blitzing, but Seattle's still only sending 5 because Derek Hall's dropping, and he's like the hot to 2 on this tight end here. Buzz rotation, so the safety's coming into the hook and playing the hot to 3. What's nice about this is you can see they basically get verts and everyone is covered up very nicely. Jones is getting moved off his spot by Wagner here as he maybe thinks about throwing this field comeback. Could he have done it? Or field hitch? Could he have done it? Probably, but I mean, it's risky with how the pocket is, and Jackson's recovery to this route is actually in the drive after he'd opened his hips for the fade is pretty impressive. I think it's very risky for Jones to try this. What's nice as well is you get the safety kind of responsible for getting up if he does break up the interior, a quicker kind of body, Julian Love. And great play from Cam Young. Really, really impressive. Like, that's a lot of strength on him to move with the pressure path and then make the one-handed tackle, stay balanced and grab Jones down by his jersey sleeve. Very good. And so Wagner's second sack came on a 1st and 20. So 13:22 left in the game. Similar pressure path for Wagner, but Seattle's showing even presentation, the 2-3 techniques, and they're going to slant the 3 technique inside to set up Wagner's path. Brooks is mugging. Seattle's wanting the Giants to think they're sending pressure with Brooks, which is something they commonly do. They'll send Brooks and sometimes drop this outside linebacker out into a hook. Instead, Wagner's going to rush. Here comes the 3 technique. He's to the slide, so he doesn't get clean. He doesn't get matched up on the back. The Giants actually release their back hot. And Wagner ends up on the guard. That's a difficult assignment. A really nice block slipping move here. Tight path, and it's more of like a clean-up sack, but the way that the Seahawks design this pressure is beautiful. Giants releasing their back. I think Jones is thinking, I'll try and throw hot here. But Nwosu's dropping out. Basically playing cover 4 over on this side of the field and then cover 2 on this side. So Jones's immediate quick throws kind of taken away by the design. You can see how as Wagner comes, the center is really trying to reach over to the 3 technique Dre'Mont Jones. It's actually Dre'Mont Jones who wins on the oversetting center to the inside, and how this inside clears up with the 3 tech slanting all the way out, screaming up the A-gap. He flushes Daniel Jones, and it's Wagner who then is able to clean up. Now, of course, New York, not the best pass protection team, are they? As we're kind of seeing here. If Jones had had more time, perhaps he would have been able to rifle it in here. But instead, as soon as you move that quarterback off the spot, things get nasty. Great edge presence from Maffei and his front side to then make sure he is forced up in the pocket to Wagner, who cleans up. I just want to emphasize how Wagner's able to get rid of this guard so quick with that push swim move. Real quick slip. You know, he's not running, getting ridden off the edge of the pocket. That's quite a tight path right to Daniel Jones. And it's just cool how that pressure played out. So I talked about the pass coverage, and this is stuff that, despite the charting company's best efforts, I don't think we have a great way of measuring it. And it really doesn't show up in the basic stat sheets either, especially for the inside linebacker position. But it's clear to me Wagner's really getting comfortable with it. So on this 1st and 10 here, Seattle is in that nickel bare front, and they're running what I believe is a bonus fire zone concept. So on this play, Wagner is the hot to 3 player, with Seattle running a 3 deep, 3 under coverage. So it's cover 3. This corner's got a deep third. This safety's got a post third. This corner's got a deep third. And then because we're pressuring there's only 3 underneath players, whereas normal cover 3 would have 4 underneath players. This safety is responsible for one of the underneath zones outside here. This middle linebacker is responsible for one of the underneath zones kind of in the middle here. And this nickel is responsible for one of the underneath zones, this kind of underneath area here. Now, each of these players is responsible for matching up with one receiver or relating to one receiver. And rather than just drop into a spot, because they're pressuring or because they're showing pressure, because they're in a pressure coverage, they want to play a bit more aggressive and anticipate the ball coming out hot or fast. So in the relation, this safety is relating to this number 2, this linebacker is relating to this number 3, and this nickel is relating to this number 2. The corners are over the 1. Now, as we play it through here, you'll see Seattle, the bonus fire zone part of this is they're dropping this player out here. But the crucial part is this player is not responsible really for doing much in coverage. His job is just to drop to what we call a bonus hook. It's a Vic Fangio style concept. He's just responsible for dropping to an area underneath that kind of 3 receiver just as extra help. So Seattle's playing with fire zone principles, but with this bonus hook. What it means is, whereas when they usually would run cover 3 out of this look, the field edge would rush and the boundary edge would drop, what they're able to do is get 4 players to the 3 receiver side, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're able to rotate the other way unexpectedly and rush their boundary player. So you can see Bobby Wagner's role in this is relating to this 3. And what's really nice here is how he drops knowing he has this insurance of the bonus hook. That's why I explained all that complicated stuff, because his drop here isn't uber aggressive. He's able to really drop to the middle and then relate to the new 3 receiver. This guy's breaking out. Wagner's help is outside where he has his hot 2 nickel out here. This guy is coming in to his area of the field. So this is the new number 3 for him to relate to. So Wagner here, reading Daniel Jones while scanning here, if we watch his drop, sees this guy slow off the ball. He needs to relate to this guy. This guy's coming. Eyes back to the quarterback. The back foot's hit, so he needs to start thinking about setting up. He's about to melt over inside here, but then the ball is forced checked down by his presence. And then he breaks towards the football. Here's an end zone angle of Bobby Wagner. You can see him scan out to the tight end. Eyes back to the quarterback. Then locate the new number 3 up here. Start looking back to the quarterback after packing tighter. Start weaving. And then you can see the quarterback's posture change as Daniel Jones looks to check down. Shoulders point towards the check down away from Wagner. You can see Wagner's feet here. That's when he starts to break. Let's have a look at Jones from this angle and Wagner. Quarterback looks away. Wagner's looking at 3. Eyes back to the quarterback as 3 slow off the ball, looking for the new number 2. Eyes. Number 2's cleared his bonus hook. He knows it's a deep concept. Eyes back to the quarterback. Back foot hits. Time to set up. I need to start melting here if the quarterback starts looking inside. But instead, the shoulder points. Wagner breaks downhill off the ball. Ultimately, he made that check down happen. Really, Wagner's taking to all the kind of coverages Seattle's running now. And it's a lot of more Vic Fangio elements to it. It's not the days of when Seattle ran lots of cover 3. It's kind of stuff that Bobby was doing in Los Angeles, of course. So this is a 3rd and 11. And the Giants shift pre-snap into a trips look. And Seattle's running what we call cover 8. So all that is cover 2 to the receiving strength and cover 4 away. Now, what happens here is the Giants put 4 receivers to the strength. So in their pattern, 1, 2, 3 guys go to one side of the field. Now, that represents a challenge for any coverage. And the way that Seattle is going to play this is interesting. And it requires a lot of Bobby Wagner, a lot of quick processing, but it's also kind of dialing his current skill set into the overall structure. So let's focus first on this side of the field. So this corner here, Mike Jackson, is responsible kind of for the flats. He's the cover 2 cornerback. But in the flats, he still has to take the second receiver through his zone. That's because this first receiver here is the responsibility of the deep half player. If Jackson were to just not run vertical with this route, no one would be able to cover it. You'd be putting Quandre Diggs in too big of a bind, especially if this route starts bending across the field. So he's taking this route vertical, even though he started with the flats. Diggs obviously is in the deep half, so he's occupied. Now, Witherspoon as the nickel is kind of the curl defender, so he's relating to the number 2 receiver. And while the first threat to him goes inside, he's aware that both these receivers are vertical. He needs to get depth. Now, finally, from the strength side, the 3rd receiver from the pattern is Julian Love's responsibility. So although Seattle's playing cover 4 over here, they're doing something called tricks, which is Love looking to the front side for the 3 receiver. So you'll notice here, he locates this final 3 receiver and gets right up in that window. Now, because Love is doing that, Bobby Wagner is essentially, he's relating still to the number 3, but he's essentially in the low hole. He doesn't have to man turn and take this all the way back. Love is the guy who's going to take this route. And because Wagner's free, rather than have Tariq Woolen run in his deep quarter across the field with his shallow route, Wagner is the take-back guy in the coverage. Jordan Brooks is basically playing man coverage on the running back. When this route is shallow, notice, rather than Woolen point here, he gets depth to try and help with routes over on this side. He could maybe, if this route had all the way bent, Woolen could have found it. And instead, he points this route out, under. Wagner, he knows he doesn't have to play the vertical of 3. He can play here. But look at the speed with which he takes this route back. Because if he doesn't, right, that's a lot of space. But Wagner puts his foot in the ground, is alert to the threat. Bang. For the timing of Daniel Jones, there's just no way that he's going to be able to access that route. So Daniel Jones, I think, is looking to throw this route here. But you see Seattle basically gets 1, 2, 3 bodies in the vicinity of that. He moves off it looking over here, but this isn't the right concept to run against Seattle's cover 2. This is a relatively easy deal for Mike Jackson of second guy through my zone is this. And Diggs has a lot of good depth. So There's nothing for Jones. Meanwhile, the pass rush is starting to flush him from the pocket. So he'd immediately think, okay, well, let's check the ball down. But Wagner's driving to that route, and there's just nowhere to go with the football. Now, you could try this late, which I know New York fans have criticized Jones for not being able to throw the scramble. But in terms of Wagner's recognition and formation alert-wise, X being nasty or inside the numbers is an alert that he's going to run an under route. Seattle would have been in tune to this tight formation, but Wagner's ability to get in this window, and then as Jones progresses in his read and the crosser comes and he gets the call from Woolen to take that back across the formation, super impressive. And they also get a quarterback hit thanks to this. Pass rush-wise, you can see what happens. Seattle's running double text games. And I think Jones, I mean, honestly, the pass pro is not awful. I think he bails because he's like, well, that route's been doubled. I can then access this on the run, get it in space. But Wagner's ability to remove it just kills the play. Just kills what Jones is thinking. So that's just normal middle field open coverage addressed. Now let's look at fire zone coverage where there's no bonus fire zone and it's too high still. So this is a 1st and 10. And you remember all those plays where Witherspoon's flying off the edge? This is how, part of how it is able to happen is Wagner showing a really good ability. So Witherspoon's going to blitz off the edge here. And Darrell Taylor, to set that path up, is going to slant inside into the B gap. So let's just see that play out. Bang. Get Witherspoon on the back. Nice work. But coverage-wise, to make this work, this slot is therefore uncovered. Diggs is playing deep. You want to play 2 high safeties. This corner's got a 1 to worry about. Coverage-wise, this guy is immediately open. So Bobby Wagner's still playing hot coverage. He's just relating in the structure to this number 2 receiver. Now, I believe Seattle's playing kind of cover 4 up here, like a quarter, potentially reading this number 2 receiver, like in a palms thing. Like if he's out within 2, then the corner's going to break on the 2, and this safety's going to get over the top of the 1. And then on the backside, this to me looks more like just cover 2, but it's inverted where Woolen's playing like a deep half or a ranger half, I've seen it called. This safety here is coming in and walling the 2 on this side, and Derek Hall is like the cloud cover 2 cornerback. So let's just play that through. Here's Hall in the flat. Here's Love coming down to wall this 2, relate to this 2. Here's Woolen playing in the deep half. So what's super impressive is how Wagner gets quick depth and width to relate to this 2 and get in better body position to play the route. Gets his eyes back to the quarterback and looks along for this route. Passes this route off after seeing this route. Is also aware and cognizant of Daniel Jones breaking the pocket. And then flips the hips to get over with the over route. I mean, again, for Daniel Jones here, he could have probably threaded it into this first post route from the strong side. But Woolen's in the deep half is getting over there. But Wagner's ability to flip, get in the hip pocket of the receiver. For Jones, you know, he could have tried some miracle play down here after the receiver improvised. But that first crosser where they thought they probably had Wagner didn't work. And why is Jones hurried? Well, Witherspoon coming off the edge after the coverage worked is able to then get back outside, recontain Jones, get another quarterback hit for himself, force an errant throw. Basically a desperation play. Now, end zone wise, we're going to see some really cool eye work from Wagner. So again, look into that 2, eyes back to the quarterback. What's his drop like? Oh, it's pretty deep. Drop in over here. Locates that 2 receiver coming across. Gets in the hip pocket of him. Nowhere for that football to go. And so you can play this coverage a bit more aggressive in terms of matching up. But in terms of the areas and the way that they're just relating to guys, and then the way that the deep guys are aware that they need to really get going, really, really good stuff. Finally, I've already mentioned Wagner's veteran savvy, but pass coverage is not an exception. It's actually really showing up here too. So this is a 2nd and 6 play. Already you're thinking, you know, the offense may try and stay on schedule, especially with the issues the Giants were having. And indeed, they call in a run pass option play, which a lot of guys would be suckered. Wagner is the read here, and I just want you to watch how this Jones has the option to hand off on a stretch play or ping it to this little glance route, like a little slant from the slot route behind Wagner's zone. Seattle's in cover 3 here. And Wagner's ability to just take that step back, understand he's being read, and just wait and force the handoff is so impressive. Now, that's how Draymond Jones is able to make the tackle for loss. With run pass option schemes, if the D-line gets after up front, with how tentative the offensive line has to play sometimes, the D-line's going to have the advantage. But the D-line can only really get after it up front if they know that, the good stuff behind is happening. And this ball gets handed off because of Wagner. You can see from Daniel Jones' perspective, he's reading Wagner. Wagner takes that step back. Okay, I'll hand the ball off, but already up front because these guys aren't able to get downfield too much, and Seattle's firing downhill, it's game over. Again, little step back into that window. Really, they've got numbers to the front side on the stretch play. Wagner can join it late if needs be, but it wouldn't be his play to make anyway. Great work. And here's another example of pass coverage where Wagner's just helping his teammates be okay. So this 2nd and 7, I'm not sure what the play here is from a defensive perspective, because you'll notice Jordan Brooks blitzes and so does Witherspoon. For Seattle to send 6 people a concept, I don't think they'd do that. Like, if you look at the coverage, it looks as though they have 1 underneath player or maybe 2, but that seems unlikely to me. Could be the case, but I think either Witherspoon's taking his shot here, or it was a call designed to be a blitz to the passing strength, which pre-motion was here and here, but then post-motion, the passing strength is here, here, and here, isn't it? So Brooks ends up going. I think Witherspoon should not blitz here. But anyway, he decides to take a shot. It looks like duo, so he's probably thinking I can make a tackle. You'll notice here how upset he is with himself. If we just focus on Witherspoon, he is visibly annoyed with himself. And maybe it's because he feels he could have beat the back or nestled on the back or peeled on the back. I'm not sure. Seattle wants Witherspoon to play fast, and this could have been a disaster, even with Witherspoon playing fast. But Bobby Wagner is the hero here. Notice how he comes downhill, honors the play fake, recognizes that the back is going outside, and coverage-wise, he would have to be aware of that back, but the fact that he is able to get outside to the screenplay, if he doesn't get this far outside, this is going for big, big yardage, because Witherspoon was the outside guy, and he went at the quarterback, and the running back, successfully sold his block to him. And, yeah, instead, it goes for a very limited gain. Like, we can see here how Wagner showing up outside turns the runner back to the inside where he thinks there are numbers. In actuality, there's a lot of bodies coming from Seattle. The big gain was to the outside, but Wagner got there. And Darrell Taylor, nice block shared, and everyone joins in. So there you have it. Wagner's playing some really damn good football. And we did have concerns here at Seattle Overload. And I think some of those worries do still apply. Like, they haven't just disappeared. But ultimately, it's great to see Wagner back in Seattle playing in the scheme in a way that is really causing offenses issues. And he's just one of a number of defenders who are balling out. Make sure you check out the rest of our breakdowns on that. Like I said, Griff did a brilliant video on Boye Mafe and how he's taking a jump and looks to be emerging as a Seahawks outside linebacker. Make sure you check out all of our other podcast stuff at Seattle Overload, and also SeahawksOnTape.com, where I'm going to be doing a deep dive into how this Seahawks run defense, the number 1 ranked unit, is just doing schematic things that Pete Carroll has done in the past, but in a new kind of 3-4 personnel style way. And finally, also, I'll be looking at how Jackson Smith and Jigba is being used in the offense, or why he's not getting the ball more often or as much as people expected. Thanks, everyone.